Good evening. Have you ever wondered where on earth did the word or the concept stress come from? Where has this word appeared from? Stress. We use the word so often and it's become part of our standard vernacular. The thought occurred to me today as I realized that I was starting to feel stressed. And I thought, I'm really kind of tired about talking about stress. Where did it come from? Hi, I'm Valerie Ling. I'm a clinical psychologist and I seem to be fascinated by the work of trying to prevent people from burning out and made most interesting during this pandemic. So, stress. So, of course, I went to the authority of our age, and that is Google, to actually find out where did the word or the concept stress come from. And it turns out that stress does come from looking into the sciences, physics, for example, where there is an understanding that you can have an amount of force upon another force or an object, I suppose, that exerts more force and strain on an object than the object can withstand. And so it presents itself as a strain or a stress on the object. Psychological stress is not too dissimilar from that. When we are presented with a situation or a task or an event where we start to perceive that the event it demands more from us than we can actually withstand. So stress comes up. Have you ever wondered what are some of the most common anxiety or stress dreams that people have? Well, they'd be things like teeth falling out, or turning up for an exam unprepared, turning up naked in the public eye. These are all really common examples of stress dreams. How interesting that we've had them. I'd love to know, what's your stress or anxiety dream? It'd be fascinating to see just how many of us actually have the same ones. Of late, I've been noticing that I was having a different kind of stress dream. They weren't the ones that I would typically have, which would alert me to some kind of underlying anxiety that was building up, because I would frequently, my stress dream is turning up to an exam unprepared. Instead, I was having far more realistic stress dreams. Take, for example, last night. I actually had a dream that I turned up for a music event late. I was late and I was unprepared, and I made a series of blunders that not only caused myself great distress, but the people around me as well. Where did that come from? I can tell you where. I was rostered to play on music today on Sunday. Usually it would be a closed event. You'd turn up at a building, and whoever turned up, and whoever was listening to music would listen. But these days, everything gets streamed. I don't know who's going to be listening. It went out via YouTube Live. I had no idea how they were mixing the sound for streaming versus mixing the sound for in. I didn't know if I should play loud, if I should play soft, if I should play busy, if I should play restrained or high or low. There were a lot of things I wasn't sure of. And that made sense of my dream being late, that I wouldn't have enough time to prepare. Interestingly, these are some of the hallmarks of stress. Here it is. We feel stress under novel circumstances when we're actually put into a situation that is new, that we have never encountered before. We feel stress when the situation is unpredictable. We don't know the way it's going to go. We don't have a narrative or a script or a timeline to figure out how this is going to roll out or finish. We feel stress when we feel under some kind of threat that something is going to go wrong, and it's not just a mistake, but it could severely undermine our well being or even our existence. And we feel stress when we lose control. Well, that, my friends, is the age we are living in right now. Yes, we're sick of talking about unprecedented events in this pandemic, but that is what it is. And so, being under a constant state of stress, because nothing as we know it is normal or predictable or under control, and we do have always ongoing a sense of a lack of control. So, here are my top tips for you based on what I've been reflecting on stress and how we may need to actually tackle this in the months to come, particularly as this would be the season we would normally be saying, stay tough because holidays are coming or Christmas is coming, or we might be able to go on a holiday, we might be able to go and see the relatives, and well, it's very actually quite difficult to have that as an anticipation. Here are my top tips. Number one, give yourself extra time for everything and anything. Just make it a standard. You're going to need extra time. If something would have taken you 30 minutes, budget 60 minutes. If something was going to take you an hour, just budget 2 hours for it. That's okay. Give yourself extra time for everything. Why? Because more than likely you're going to need some time to figure out the novelty of the situation and some steps that you might need to actually address the situation that you've never encountered before. Point taken. I don't normally practice that much for music, but I practiced a lot for today. Number two, make sure you ask. There's a high likelihood and probably a certainty that if you're feeling uncertain about a particular situation, the person that you're doing it with probably is also feeling that because they probably don't have the map or the rubric for how it's supposed to go either. So make sure you ask. Number three, communicate. And I'm not just talking about, kind of figuring out the strategy or what to do or the how to do, but why don't we all just communicate to one another? You know what, folks, this ain't normal. Uh, we don't know, have no clue. It's still really important for us to say to one another that these are new times. I'm still not sure. I'm uncertain, and that's okay. The more we normalize that for one another, the easier it is for us to feel like, it's not us. We're adjusting to something that is just ongoing. Number four, make sure that you actually make decisions that are based on your values, right? Think about the things that are important to you. We may scramble to grab at first opportunities or first things that make sense to us or that we can control because we're actually anxious. Taking the time to actually reflect on what we're doing and whether we're doing it because it's important, of what consequence will this decision mean, of what consequence will this task mean for you and for the things that are important to you. Manage your energy, not your time. Know and name the predictable. Invest in what you can do and what you can change. I think that's a part two for this live. But for now, those are my four tips. I'll bring you the rest in yet another segment of stress. Take care.